Okay, today we're going to bake Dutch apple pie, starting with the pie crust. I have enough here to make 2 pie crusts. So what I have is 2 cups of flour, 1 teaspoon of salt, and 1 cup of butter that has been frozen and then I broke it up. So we're going to just start with a food processor. This is going to make life easy. And we're going to put the flour in the food processor. Now this is the first time I've done 2 pie crusts at a time, so I hope it works because I'm used to doing one and then another, but I was trying to be lazy this time. Okay, so we're gonna put in our butter. We got flour, salt, butter, and then we're gonna cut it in. Yeah, this is the first time I've done a whole or a double batch like this, so I hope it's not going to be a problem. So now I'm going to cut it, so I'm just going to pulse it. See how this turned out doing a double batch. I think it turned out fine. So you just lift that out of there. So now your flour and butter have incorporated. Pour it into a mixing bowl. And now is when you need your ice water. So for 1 pie crust, I use about 4 teaspoons of ice water. So this is a double, so I'm going to use 8 teaspoons. Okay, so I meant to say tablespoons, so this is a tablespoon. So I need to have 8 tablespoons. Gosh, if I remembered how to convert that into a quarter of a cup, it's probably what it is. So 1, 2, 3. Oh, look at this. Is going to be 4 tablespoons. Now, if I would remember that, that would be awesome. That's not going to happen. Okay, so I need 2 of these. Let me get something to mix this with. Okay, my handy dandy wooden spoon. Okay, so I'm going to pour that in there. That's 1, and then another one. Okay, now we'll just mix it up until it starts to form a dough. After it starts to really like lump up like this, and I've got pretty much the water dispersed around. After I get it pretty good lumped together, this is when I'm gonna get my hands in here. So I'm gonna use my hands. So I just washed my hands, but I think I should remove my ring. And then I'm just gonna start squeezing it together. And I don't want to over squeeze it because I don't want my pie crust to be tough. I want it to be flaky. So I'm not like squeezing it, or I'm not kneading it. I'm just squeezing it to make 2 balls, and each ball will be for 1 pie crust. Okay, so we got 2 here that are about the same size. Like I said, we're not trying to knead them, make them perfect. What we're going to do next is we're going to wrap them up in some cellophane and put them in the freezer while we get our apples ready. Okay, so I've wrapped these up in cellophane, and now I'm going to stick them in the freezer. They're just going to get kind of cold while we do our apples. Okay, so let me just add that I'm just putting it in the freezer just to chill it. I don't want to get it frozen. I gotta work with it and roll it. But I'm just putting it in there just as long as I get the apples done. If I would have started yesterday for baking pies today, I would have made the crust yesterday. And then I would have put it in the refrigerator, and then today I would have got up, pulled out the refrigerator, and rolled out my pie crust. So that's all we're doing right now. So we're gonna need like 6 apples per pie. So I'm gonna get 12 apples here. And that's probably about what's here. Let's see. 2, 4, 6. Oh, there's more than that. Okay, there's 8. 10. 12. Wow, I got enough to do another apple pie. How cool. Okay, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna take this handy dandy apple peeler slicer core. This is brand new. I just got it yesterday. Yes, I went to Amazon because I didn't have time. My other one that I've had for like 30 years, it broke. It finally broke. One of these little things broke off and it won't work. So this is my first time to use it, so we'll see how it works. Okay, so you just put it on a flat surface and it and it should suck. Let's try it. Let's try it. Oh, it's brand new. What do you expect? All right, let's see if this is gonna work. It might work. Okay, let's move my water thing here. Okay, I hope it works. Anyway, you just stick this on here. Wow. You know what? You never know what you're gonna get. You never know. Probably came from China, most likely. Sorry. Sorry, Chinese people. I love you. I just don't like just don't like what's going on. Okay, here we go. So just start spinning and it'll peel. And then when it gets to this, you just want to make sure that I probably should have pulled that off first, because you want to make sure that's gonna go in there. Ah, well, see, that messed me up. Oh, well, gosh, we might have to cut this video and get him down into work. This was gonna be a huge time saver. It acts like it's not even sharp.
Is it not?
It acts like it's not sharp. Look at that. It's peeling though. I mean, what do you call it? It's slicing and coring. But
it didn't give you any.
I got peels on there, which I don't want for my pie. But what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna go ahead and peel these off with a peeler. See if that works. Now that it's sliced, I don't know. Wow, this is not fun. You know what? Making apple pie is like my favorite because it's fun. This is not fun. So we're gonna send this one back. This peeler back.
Amazon, you're getting a return.
And I'm gonna seek out one made from quality. Because this stinks. Okay, so since this peeler is not working, we can turn it off so that it's not going to be in the way. And we peeled all these. Now we're going to just use it to core and slice. And that should work. Please, please work. Let's make sure that goes in there. Yeah, it does. Okay. Yay. Okay, there's one. This is going to work. Okay. That one's got a tail. Okay. Now we have our apples. Now we're going to put a little bit of lemon juice to keep them from getting too brown while we put in our pie crusts. Okay, so we're just going to get, it doesn't need a lot of lemon juice. Just we want to keep it from turning brown. And you know what? Even if it turned brown, it's not a problem. I mean, you're going to bake it anyway, right? It doesn't need to be perfectly beautiful. Okay, so we're going to set that aside. Okay, we need to preheat the oven. So we're going to bake at 425. Now we're going to roll out our crust. And this is the fastest way I know to do it. because it won't stick to anything. I don't need any extra flour. I'm just gonna roll it out between two pieces of cellophane. So let me get this out, lay it down. Okay, I'm gonna start smashing it a little bit by hand. And then I'm gonna get my handy dandy right down here. In my cabinet, a piece of closet dowel that you would hang your clothes on in the closet. Yes, my friend Laura gave me this. I'm hoping this is big enough for this big one. If it's not big enough, we're gonna go with a smaller. We're gonna go with a smaller pie plate. So let's see. Oh, it's not big enough because this is deep. So we're gonna get a little shallower one. This will work better. So this just barely fits on there. It's okay. We're gonna make it work because I can stretch it a little bit. And that's just the way I do this. I've never seen any tutorials of anyone doing it that way. But you gotta make sure, see how it's trying to stick right there? That's why you wanna just pull it back. Like, back over it. Like this. You don't wanna lift it. Ta-da! Now we want it to go down inside there, so we're just gonna kind of do this. Lift it off the edge here. See, it started to melt. That's why I like my butter and my what am I trying to say? That's why I like it a little bit cold. That's why I put it in the freezer, because I was trying to get it cold again.
Could you put the so you refrigerate these?
Yeah.
Before you roll them out?
Yeah, but you see how I'm doing this? You just take your finger, you push your finger here, and then you use your thumb to push. Yeah, you might need to come over here. No? Okay. So I'm pushing down here, and I'm pushing it, and I'm making this little ripple. And it doesn't have to be fancy. But it's kind of pretty. So here it melted. I'm like, melted. Well, it didn't line up right. Okay, so since we're not going for the fair, I don't care if it's beautiful. Okay, so there's one. Okay, so our apples are not turning brown over all that because I put that lemon in there. So now what we're going to do is we're going to measure out the spices and the sugar, and then I'll show spices. Now normally your apple pie is going to ask for cinnamon. I like to put pumpkin pie spice and a little bit more cinnamon and also ground cloves to extra spice it up. So I put 1 teaspoon of the pumpkin spice, and then I did a half a teaspoon more of cinnamon and ground cloves. So if you don't like it as spicy as I do, then you might want to just cut back on the extra cloves and cinnamon because that's all in here. But I like it really spicy, so that's what we're doing. So we're going to use these spices with a half a cup of sugar. So normally I bake with organic raw sugar, but for this time, I'm not. So I want a half a cup of sugar. That's not quite a half a cup, and I'm just going to add some more. Okay, I'm just cutting these in half. Oops. Looks like there was a seed that got left behind And it did start to brown a little bit on the inside here, but that's not a big deal. Like I said, it doesn't matter if it browns because it's going to all turn brown as it bakes right now. So I just want to get that seed out of there. That little bit of seed isn't going to kill anybody, but I'm worried about that. Okay, this is 4 apples. This is 5. Now, if you had a smaller pie crust, like you did an 8-inch, 5 would be all you need. But this is the bigger one, so we're using 6. And then, after we spread them out, we're going to pour our sugar and spices. I like to mix my sugar and my spice beforehand. So, I'll show you what I mean. So here's my cinnamon, my sugar and my cinnamon. So I'm just gonna pour it into a bigger container and use a whisk. And just kind of whip it, whisk it. And that way it's more blended. And then just sprinkle it over. And it's gonna run down in the little cracks. And I don't put flour in mine. A lot of recipes call for flour. I've never used the flour. I guess the flour is supposed to make it like a gravy, but I've never had it be soupy. I don't know why. Maybe it's because they're Granny Smith apples. I don't know, but even Granny Smith recipes always say to put like a tablespoon of flour. Like I said, I never have, and I've always been happy with the way it turned out. Okay. Okay, I'm going to show you, if you don't have a food processor, you can take a frozen stick of butter and grate it. This, to me, is a lot of work. So I like to use the food processor. But I've done it this way a lot of times. And if it's frozen, it's easier to manage. But the problem is when you get closer to the blades, oh, you gotta be careful because you can cut yourself. Okay, cut. Okay, for the Dutch topping, this is shaved butter. I have, we're doing a double batch, so I have a half a cup each pie, so it's a full cup actually, of flour. And then same thing, it's equal parts, half, half, and half. So we got a half a cup flour, half a cup of sugar. And that's per pie. So we're doing 2, so we're doubling it. And then we get the handy whisk out, whisk the flour and the sugar. And then after I whisk it, then I'm gonna incorporate it into the shaved butter. Frozen butter. Because it'll be, it'll crumble up. It'll attach to the, I don't know how to use the language. It'll attach to the butter and flour and sugar.
That's what makes it crumbly?
Yeah, making crumbs. So as I cut it in to the flour and sugar, it's becoming crumbly.
So this is how to do it instead of using a food processor?
Yeah. And this way is actually a nice crumb topping. The food processor, it cuts the butter smaller. So this way, it grated it a little bit bigger chunks. So it actually makes a better topping. So that's one reason why I did the top by grating it instead of cheating with the food processor. Because I like the texture of the crumb topping. But the butter's pretty frozen, so it's taking me a little bit longer to mix it, to get the sugar and the butter and the flour into good size crumbs. So kind of what I'm doing is cutting it in. That's what it's called, cutting in the butter. But it was just by grating it was making it more uniform. So now what we have is this crumb topping, and we're going to pour this over the top of our pies. So let me go get the pies. Okay, so I'm just kind of swirling it around, and we're going to cut it in half between two pies, so I kind of got to guess. I want to guess that that's about half. So then pick it up and just kind of crumble it over the top. This butter didn't seem to grab it didn't seem to mix very well. I'm going to smash it a little with my hands because it doesn't feel like the butter and the sugar and the flour mixed, like held it together. So I'm kind of going to just smash it with my hands. You see here that the sugar and flour is not hooked up to the butter. So that's why I'm kind of smashing it with my hands. And that's, oh yeah, that's a lot better. Okay, now let's try it. Okay, yeah. And I'm just kind of going on the top in the center because it's going to fall down. And then I'll spread it. If it feels like it's not adhering to the butter very well, just squeeze it between your fingers. And that'll be fine. I think I'm getting to the end of it here. Okay, so then just kind of flatten that mountain down, over down to the sides. Okay, so we just need a little bit more to cover up some of those exposed apples, and you don't want to cover it completely because the juices are gonna need some places for the steam to escape. So like if you made a regular apple pie, you'd cut it in the center because that's why, because the juices need to create some steam in there. So this is actually pretty good. I see a little spot right here, and I'm gonna. So I put them in the center, but I put a rock on top of them so I can tent them underneath this foil, and then that way they won't burn. And that's good enough. So now 1 hour. See how they turn out in 1 hour from now. It's got 15 minutes left, and well, 16, and I think it looks like it's getting a little bit crispy. So I'm going to lower the tent actually down onto the pies because that crust looks like it's getting a little bit dark. Okay, so I took it down, I raised that rack, and I took it down and laid it right on top. And they're going to be done soon. But I'm going to go ahead and give them another 10 minutes and then look at them. Okay, so I'm checking it out here. It's actually got 5 minutes left. And the top of that one is not, it's kind of wet. I don't know if you can see it in the video. So I'm going to give it the 5 more minutes. Yeah, that one's crusty a little. Okay, but I'm going to leave the foil off. And yes, it's dripping down there, so it's steaming up, but it's okay. No big deal. 5 more minutes. Okay, here we go. Woohoo, it's hot, steamy. But they're gonna have to come out. It's been 1 hour. As they cool, then the tops will finish. So there you go. There you have it. Apple pie. Okay, so since my crust didn't come up enough, the juices did run down the sides. But that's okay. It's a little messy. But I'm sure it's going to be delicious. Yeah. I'm looking forward to eating it.